And the bake is now completed, so we can see that the water is now excluded from the nav mesh, so the characters can no longer walk across these areas. And this block has created this really nice, you know, straight area for the character to walk across without having to do some bizarre dance to get across there. And if we actually find the terrain and just switch off the terrain a moment and go back to the navigation, you can see that the navigation area is actually relatively good. That bit got excluded just because it was that straight sharp edge. Not too much of a problem, to be honest. It should be fine. Yeah, let's just put the terrain back on. So now it's a case of just looking through everything, making sure that it all looks good. So you're looking for any issues. I can see that this bridge probably does need some work actually, because there are certain non-connected areas. It means that it's impossible for the enemy characters to go along that part. If that's the case and you don't want the enemies to go up there, then obviously leave that bridge alone if you want. But I can see that that might actually be a suitable way for the enemy characters to get over into this part. Alright, so I might do some work with that actually. Now where we see areas like this, certainly when you get closer to them and they sort of move around like you can see there, just click on your terrain, go to the inspector, switch off your terrain, go to your navigation, and you'll see actually it's just parts of the terrain actually poking through. Because the terrain has more polygon data, if you like, it can warp into unusual shapes, whereas the nav mesh has fewer polygons, and so most likely it's going to be kind of like this straight plane. Okay, that's why occasionally you'll see like little areas poking through. Nothing to worry about. There are also these areas on top of these bushes that have been marked as walkable. However, unless your character has a step height of something like 3 meters or something, your character most likely will not be able to get up to that part anyway. So just double check everything, make sure it's all good, including getting into houses and things like that. So just make sure it's walkable. Okay, so the character could still walk around there, walk up there and get into that house, and make sure they can also get upstairs as well. Now then, I can see an issue here. Okay, so on this bridge is currently unwalkable because the character can never make, well, the character might be able to make that jump actually between that part and that part, but the character is going to have to do a lot of dancing to get around there. Okay, so I think I'm going to fix that particular area there. Now bear in mind you can make as many fixes as you like and then go back and rebake, or you can even clear this area and bake it again. The only thing that you've got to consider is how much time does it take for it to rebake and how much time do you have. So probably get something that you think looks good for you. And sometimes when you go into some of these buildings, there are areas like this where there's broken pieces of floors. You may need to put sort of a little cube over that area there just to ensure that the characters can walk all the way across. So you really need to, you know, be looking. I mean, that area you don't want the enemies to walk across that. So you really need to be looking at this with almost like a, you know, a level of detail that's quite intense. I mean, that part needs covering there. And occasionally you might find things like rugs and things like that, or carpets in some of these areas that may be affecting the nav mesh. You can always hide those if you need to. But generally I think the settings are actually very, very good. So let's go back to this bridge cube then. Oh, okay, so it's taken me all the way out. There we go. I just want to see what it looks like when we put the bridge back on again. So because I'm planning on redoing this nav mesh, I'm not going to delete this bridge cube yet. all I'm going to do is switch it off. Now I made a note of what these were called. It's struct docking. Okay, so I'm just going to simply write docking. These are all the struct dockings, and I'm looking for any that are grayed out. Okay, so these ones. Okay, I could just click the blue ones actually instead of having to click the white ones, because that controls all of those. So I'm going to switch those on, switch that one on, and that one on as well. Okay, so that's the entire amount. Just delete that. Okay, there we go. We've got our bridge back. Maybe click on something else, and then let's go to the navigation. And now we can see that the navigable area is nicely across there. The only thing I've got to consider there is that navigation walk area is slightly above this bridge area. So when I redo it, I might spend a bit more time on getting it perfect. Okay. It can take a little bit of time to get a really good nav mesh. So make sure that you put the time in order to get almost like a perfect one. And that will be your assignment to actually refine your nav mesh and make sure everything works perfectly.